not the business. Is it that in practice? It's not covered. Oh, okay. I think just made it a guess. I didn't know nothing yet. I think I can get the other door. I'll look into it. Can you get a copy of that to Larry when you get a chance?
Okay.
At least.
Ready, Dustin?
Nope, I didn't even talk to him. I was talking. You can probably start something.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Has this meeting been properly announced?
Yes, it has.
A roll call vote by introducing ourselves. You want to start, Hannah?
Hannah Landon, recording secretary.
Barb Morgan, District 6.
Rocky Gilner, District 2.
Larry Barrow, District 4.
Chuck Quick, District 5.
Randy Thewson, citizens member.
Jody Shapey, District 7.
You? Introduce yourself.
Dustin Grant, County Zoning Administrator.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion by Larry and a second by Rocky. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, now we have to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
I'll make a
So
motion
moved.
to approve.
Jody, a motion to approve, and a
Chuck
second?
Quick, second.
Chuck, quick second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We'll go into the public hearings. The first one is Ryan and Catherine Kwam.
This is to reopen a table application or rezoning request. Rocky, you may want to mute yourself. Of a portion of a parcel, 5 acres from A135 exclusive ag, amended to A3 secondary ag instead of R1 residential on property located in the southeast quarter of the southwest quarter, section 24, T18 north, range 6 east, town of Preston, Adams County. The address is 770 Cypress Ave. I believe the applicants are on someplace.
Yeah, I'm here, Ryan Kwame.
There you are.
Kate's not with us, but I'm here.
And so it is a larger parcel. They are applying to rezone a 5 acre parcel. The town requested that it be changed to A3 instead of R1. And there are a couple of sheds out there had it been rezoned to R1, the sheds would not have been allowed. So by going to A3, the sheds are allowed because there is no house yet. And I believe we have no correspondence, and the town did not object to it.
Ryan, do you have anything to add to what Dusty said?
No, I think what he said is pretty accurately. I appreciate his time in the process as well. But yeah, talking through it, A3 makes a great deal of sense, probably more than R1 to begin with, in our request of just to use our sheds for both recreational and agricultural use.
Okay. Are there any questions from the committee? Any questions from the committee? Is there anyone that would like to speak for Ryan's request? Is there anyone that would speak against Ryan's request? It's in the committee's hands.
Thank you.
I move to approve the rezoning for Ryan.
I'll second.
The second one's from Bruce. Rocky, okay. We have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? The motion is passed. This will go before the county board on January 19th at 6 o'clock. And you can go to the county website and get onto the Zoom meeting at there if you need to. If you have any help, you can get a hold of Dusty's office.
Great, perfect. Thank you. You guys have a good afternoon.
You too. The next one is Jim and Christina Breen.
This is a rezoning request of a portion of parcel 5 acres from A135 exclusive ag to A3 secondary ag on property located in the northeast quarter, section 30, township 16 north, range 6 east, town of Easton. The address is 2803 highway 13. If I'm not mistaken, there's a number of farm buildings in the corner of a field. They are requesting to cut off 5 acres that include all the buildings. The town of Easton does not object to the request. And I don't believe I have any correspondence. I have no correspondence.
I see Aaron Breen's on.
Yeah.
Are you representing the family?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, sorry, I'm joining you from California today. Yes, so I hadn't been dealing with this so much. My brother had been handling it, so I apologize if I'm not completely up to date on everything. But we did want to rezone that 5 acres of the 40-acre parcel that we have there. And there are some farm buildings on there, an old farmhouse as well. And it's a nice piece of land with some farmland, woods. It would be a nice spot for someone to build on, or maybe even have like a fixer-upper kind of project. And my dad, who should be on this meeting, you know, he's 89 years old and he's now living on the East Coast. So we're trying to handle this for him because he's not able to manage the land, and we're not able to help because I'm in California and my brother is also in Rhode Island. So, so that's what we're trying to do, just rezone that 5 acres.
Are there any questions from the committee? Is there anyone that objects to this? Is there anyone that wants to speak for it? It's in the committee's hands.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, this too will go before the county board on the January 19th meeting at 6 o'clock. And if you go to the
Great,
county
thank you.
calendar, you can get on Zoom there.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
You're welcome. The next one, Jim Schindelbeck.
This is a rezoning request of a portion of a parcel 2.5 acres from A135 exclusive ag to R1 residential on property located in the south half of the northwest quarter, section 14, township 17 north, range 6 east, lot 2 of CSM 2141, town of Adams, 2141 8th Drive. Did I do the wrong one? Where does it say A3? We'll call that an oops. On the public notice, it says R1. Well, the short answer, A3, it would be an undersized parcel. Because that does require 5 acres. So it pretty much has to be R1. It could be R1 large lot also. It was. The agenda shows the correct name, but the public hearing notice that was published in the paper does have all the correct information. Yes, but the public hearing notice says the correct. So we can go with that. Yes. Okay. Well, we're not perfect every time. So the application is to cut off 2.5 acres off of a larger parcel, rezoning the property to R1. There is a house on the property. Mr. Schindelbeck, are you on the call? Yeah, there he is. I did not receive any correspondence, and the town did not object to it.
Okay, Jim, do you want to add anything to it? Jim, you're muted. Mr. Schindelbeck. You can't even hear us, I don't think.
Unmute, wait, oh,
Now we can hear you.
Unmute yourself, Jim, please.
how's that?
That's better.
Okay.
Did you want to add anything to what Dusty said?
Other than the fact that all the information on there was put on by everybody else when I told them what they wanted or what I wanted to do. But Dusty said R1 large lot.
Okay.
So I'm preserving the remainder of the agricultural land just to remove the house off the property.
Okay. Any questions from the committee?
So is it R1, Dusty, or is it R1 large lot?
The application as it stands says R1. I guess I would make the recommendation that we amend the application to R1 large lot. The only difference being is that R1 large lot is a 2-acre minimum, so this would not be able to be redivided. If you approved it as R1, it could actually be divided into half-acre lots.
So Mr. Schindelbeck, I might be pronouncing your name incorrectly.
You're
Are
doing
you
just fine.
Okay, are you happy with R1 large lot?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Is there anyone out there that objects to Jim's request? Is there anyone out there that wants to speak in favor of Jim's request? All right, we'll have to make a motion with the amended change.
I'll make a motion. We amend the application from R1 to R1 large lot.
A second? We have a motion and a second to go to R1 large lot for Jim, the amendment only right now. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed to the amendment? Now we need a motion for his request for rezoning.
Move.
Larry
I'll
made the
second
motion
it.
to approve. And Jody seconded it. All in favor of the motion to rezone?
Aye.
Opposed? Jim, you have your rezoning, and that again will be January 19th at 6 o'clock. The county board meeting will be the final say-so.
Do I attend that also?
If you choose to,
Okay.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much.
I was just gonna say, I will be there to answer any questions if they do come up at county board.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Thank you very much.
The next one is Timothy and Anna Sellers.
Yep, we're both here.
This is a rezoning request of a portion of a parcel, 1 acre from R1 residential to B1 business on property located in the northeast quarter, section 27, township 14 north, range 7 east, lot 17, New Haven Assessor's Plat 1, town of New Haven. The address is 327 Golden Court. The applicant is operating, fairly recently started a outboard boat motor repair business. This is a bit of a unique situation in that both comprehensive zoning and shoreline zoning both exist on this property. Under the comprehensive zoning, it is currently zoned residential, which does not allow for a boat repair or a repair business of that sort, which is the purpose of them being here for requesting to rezone it to B1. Under shoreline zoning, it is zoned recreational residential. As it stands, a boat motor repair business is not permitted. They do have to apply for a special exception for the actual operation of that business. They are on the agenda for that on Monday with the Board of Adjustment. So this is actually a couple different processes going on at the same time. Rezoning to B1 in most circumstances would open the door for anything that B1 allows. In this case, it is limited to, they're also limited to whatever shoreland allows, which in recreational residential is not a lot. So approval here doesn't necessarily allow them to do it. They would also have to obtain specific approval for that type of business with detailed plans on Monday. I did receive some correspondence. I'll read. The first is from Pauline Regath. In regards to Timothy and Anna Sellers to rezone and operate a business in the town of New Haven, I have several concerns about this. Throughout the summer, vehicles and boats were parked along the road, making it difficult for two-way traffic to go through. Twice that I know of, once of myself and once from a friend of mine, were run off the road with people pulling out of the driveway with a boat not looking. This used to be a nice, quiet neighborhood, but this past summer, noise throughout the night, boat motors, dirt bikes, and four-wheelers. I'm not the only one that is disturbed by this. Many neighbors have talked about it. I also feel it is unfair to people who abide by the rules when someone just moves into the neighborhood, opens up a business for a year without going about it the legal way and fair way. The property is located on the corner of a two-way street, very dangerous when people are in and out of the driveway. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me about my concerns. I also received a letter from Shirley Regath. I've lived here since 1978. I am totally against the business in this area. I'm retired and live in the country for peace and quiet. Listening to boat motors and four-wheelers all the time is a nuisance. Very dangerous place to have people constantly pulling in and out of traffic. Thank you, Shirley. I did also receive the town participation form. They did not object to it. During my conversation with them, there were a couple of conditions that they didn't put on their form, but that they would like to see the committee put on. Sorry, not the committee, that the Board of Adjustment, they are requesting the Board of Adjustment put on to help alleviate some concerns. That's all I have.
See that I thought I saw Anna Sellers are there?
Yep.
All right. Do you want to speak to the committee about what you're planning on doing or have been doing?
Well, I mean, we haven't really been running a business that has never really taken place. My uncle was fixing a few here and there, but there's never been a business ran. So that's why we were trying to get this process so that we can start that. We have a business in Kenosha that we run. And as far as the complaints with the neighbors, I just want to apologize for that because, you know, we did not want to disturb anyone. My husband and I don't live there. We actually rent it out. And as soon as we heard of these things, we did address it with them. And we're hoping that with these rules that are put in place, you know, we can be, you know, a part of the community.
The committee, does anybody in the committee have any questions, concerns?
I got a question.
Randy? Okay, Larry.
Yeah, so Anna, are you gonna be running this business or someone else?
My husband and my uncle who actually rents the property.
That was your question?
And Dustin, what conditions did they want the town want put on? By the Board of Adjustment?
The some of it was no outside storage of any well, basically anything having anything to do with the business. So no boats, motors, all that has to be stored inside of a building. They were talking about some hours of operation, like 6 to 6 or something close to
7
that.
to 7, yeah.
Was that what it was? 7 to 7?
Mhm.
And it expires upon transfer of ownership of the property. I think that covers all of it, Anna. Was there more?
No, that was, I'm pretty sure that was it.
So Anna, you and your husband don't live at the property, you rent it to your uncle?
Yes, correct.
Does he run this business full time or are you kind of seasonal where you run it when you come to visit or?
Seasonal, yep, it's seasonal. So, you know, really, he can't really do boat motors during the winter. So it's usually just during the spring and summer.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Bruce?
Yeah. Anna, how close are your neighbors to you?
Well, on the, well, we have the neighbors that are on the left side of us that are pretty close. But other than that, the town hall is right across the street from us who don't have a problem with that. And then we have a neighbor that's on the opposite corner of us, but his house is pretty far in, so. To the shop.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
We don't have any houses near our shop. That would be where the work would be done, though.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Do we need to address the traffic situation?
That's a
No.
conditional use. No.
Okay, thank you.
Chuck?
The question I have is you got down here for outboard motor repair. So that means there's no snowmobiles, ATVs, UTVs, or anything else going to be brought to that property for repair?
Nope. I mean, you are correct. That's what that means. Yes, there will be nothing but outboard motors.
Any other questions from the committee? Is there anyone that wants to speak in favor of this? Is there anyone that wants to speak against this? It's in the committee's hands.
I do have a map if I share my screen of the area to answer the question about like neighboring properties.
Okay.
Maybe. Can you? Maybe. All right, so the property, I don't know if you can see my mouse moving. I think you can.
Yeah.
That's the house. And right here is the shop that they will be doing the majority of the work in. And you can see a number of the other houses in the area. This one is the town hall. And let me see if I can find the neighbor. There. This house and maybe mobile home and barn is the Ragus.
So basically, they're a good distance from them.
Ragus, door to door, if I can get there.
Yeah,
Okay. So they're not going directly out to Golden Court.
right.
Mm.
That's what it looks like.
That's what I thought too.
I'd say as the crow flies, about 550 feet to the house.
Mm-hmm.
We're on second lane exiting.
Okay, committee, since there's no buddy out there to speak for it, it's in your hands.
I'll make a motion to approve the rezone as requested.
A second,
I'll second.
Bruce second it. We have a motion and a second to approve this rezone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, January 19th, it'll go before the county board at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay, Anna?
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. The next one is Robert Jezel and Sandra Phillips. Thank you.
All right, this is an application for rezoning request of a portion of a parcel, approximately 0.44 acres, from conservancy to recreational residential on property located in the northwest quarter, section 23, township 17 north, range 5 east, lot 27 of CSM 591, town of Adams. The address is 2217 15th Lane. For those of you, I have no course. Okay, let me go this route first. For those of you that are familiar with it, there is a subdivision that must have about 60 or so lots, and they each have their own pond with them. On the north edge of that subdivision, there's maybe 10 lots that happen to be too close to the waterway, and not too close, but they're within the shoreline zoning, and they fell under conservancy zoning district many years ago. A number of the parcels have had portions rezoned out. On this property, that's what happened. They are interested in putting up a garage, and they can't fit it in the square that was already rezoned. On the mapping you have online or on the agenda, that's a yellow square. That's what was rezoned. So they are looking to rezone it or extend that out about another 77 feet or so to the north. And you can also see on that same map, I think you guys have it, all the yellow squares were rezoned out at one point or another. As far as correspondence goes, the town does not object to it. And the adjacent owners, Daniel and Mary Reyes, said it's okay with them.
Okay. Robert, are you out there?
Yes, I am.
All right. Do you want to speak for this, please? There, I see you now.
I think Dusty pretty well covered it all already. I want to put a garage up to store my car, my truck, and my boat, so it's out of the weather. That's it.
Okay. Any questions from the committee? Is there anyone that wants to speak in favor of this? Is there anyone that wants to speak against this? It's in the committee's hands.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Rocky and Chuck made the motion to approve and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. It will go before the county board on January 19th at 6 o'clock.
Okay,
All right. Thank you, Robert.
thank you.
All right, the next one. Oh, street names and building.
Sorry about that. So this is an amendment to the street numbering ordinance. This was requested by the treasurer's office about a year ago, and I was going to do it as part of a number of other ordinance revisions. The primary reason is to get rid of any references to real property lister, which is a position that no longer exists. So instead, everything is every place that says anything about real property listers, it now says Adams County Treasurer's Office. The only other change that I did have in the draft that I put out was the removal of a paragraph F. And after some conversations with a town board, somebody who was on the committee who originally wrote this, I guess I would make the recommendation that the town put it back in, or the committee remove that deletion and leave it in the ordinance as written. So then the only thing that does change is the references to who is actually responsible for the ordinance. And oddly enough, they're responsible for doing everything in the ordinance. For whatever reason, the ordinance is a zoning department ordinance.
So Dustin, it's F through I though, right? Not just F.
Everything F, under F, correct. That whole section would be undeleted.
F, G, H, and I.
Yeah, no, the way I have mine set up. Yes. F through I, my apologies. All that would be undeleted.
Thank you.
And that's under section 317-3.
Are there any other questions for Dustin? Do we vote on it today? Okay.
If you would.
Okay, introduce them.
Do we need to vote on the, put the F through G and first, or, yeah? I make a motion that we put F through G and it was.
Aye.
I'm sorry, I, back to the literature.
Okay, a second on putting it back in. Jody? All right, we have a motion to put F through I back into the document. Anybody? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Now we need a motion on the whole document.
I'll make a motion to approve the street name and building number document.
We have a motion and a second to approve it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Dusty, that's taken care of. Now the next one is the tourist rooming ordinance.
All right. So, as all of you are familiar, this is the new ordinance. When it was written, there were a couple of references to the Department of Health and Human Service, or DHS, on the state level. The health department and I talked about it, and it actually should be DACAP references. Doesn't materially change anything in the ordinance, just points people in the right direction if they actually wanted to go to the state code. The only other change I made was when I do the notifications that somebody is applying for this, the ordinance says I'm supposed to put the resident agent's name on there instead of the owner. To me, that does seem a little counterintuitive, so I changed it where you would actually put the owner's name on it. The resident agent information is still available through our office at any time.
Any questions?
So Dustin, you're saying that if someone is having a problem with tourist rooming housing near them, they would have to call planning and zoning to find out the resident agent just in case the owner is not present.
Yes, because the resident agent, that section was not designed to be where the neighbors can call them. Violations are either handled by, depending on what the violation is, are either handled by our office or the sheriff's department, are generally the two primary sources. I have access to all the resident agent numbers or owner's numbers, depending on the situation. And it would be, I guess, up to our office to make sure that they're compliant. With that being said, we adopted the ordinance in November of 19. We're now at 140 of these licensed. I've received one complaint in that time. And that was actually an unfounded complaint because the people were, the residents would leave on Sunday, the renters would leave on Sunday, take the garbage cans out to the end of the driveway. They come pick it up on Monday, just like anybody else. And the empty cans sat out there until Friday. That was the entire complaint. So.
Thank you. I wasn't really wanting to worry about the violations. Sometimes it's nice when someone says, oh no, I know it's the owner that's actually running this, or I know it's a resident agent. And it's just one more step to find that information out. So that's okay though. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? All right, it's in the committee's hands.
I'll make a motion to approve the changes.
Randy made the motion.
I'll second it.
Bruce seconded. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. The next one is the building construction ordinance.
All right, this is the one that we discussed last month. This is the new language, and what this, as it's revised, any place where we do building inspections, we will no longer be doing accessory structures that are not associated with either adjoining a house, attached to a house, have something to do with a house. So the primary things are decks on campers will no longer be inspected under the building permit or under a building permit. Same with garages, sheds. However, you will still need a zoning permit. That's in a completely different ordinance that still has that requirement. You have to meet all the setbacks. There are size restrictions. It still regulates where, if you can put a shed on without a house. This ordinance does not affect any of that. All it says is if you're in a place where it says you can build a house, or if you're going to build an accessory structure and it's legal anything or in all other ways, you don't have to get a building permit for it, but you would still have to get a zoning permit. So it's not just like a free for all. And I think we all talked about it last month that, you know, this now doesn't require, it won't, the main thing that the ordinance requires right now is the 30-pound snow load on the roof, which I guess is a noble ambition, but the amount of time and I guess the reward for what we put into it just isn't there. And a lot of the decks that we're looking at, you know, they're off of a camper. They're usually a foot or two off the ground. And how critical is it that we're trying to apply the same standards that we would if you were building a house or the deck on a house. And I don't think that's necessarily right for doing for campers. Now, this doesn't indicate or regulate the size of decks that are allowed on campers. We're not addressing any of that yet. This is just, hey, if a deck's allowed, we're not requiring a building permit.
Jody?
I have some questions. So, Dustin, on it, unfortunately, you don't have page numbers, but hold on. I think it's the permit expiration. So all of that information is going to be removed, and just A and 1 are on the next page are going to be renumbered. It's just kind of messy. So the permit expiration, is that going to be A, and is the 1 going to stay the same as the electrical permit? It's 166.12 permit expiration. Very end of it, of that section. Because you're getting rid of a lot. I just.
So, the way the ordinance was originally written, I looked at probably 10 different counties.
I think you're muted. Sorry, Dustin.
All right. So the way the ordinance was originally written, it was very redundant. And when you compare it to other municipalities and other counties that have similar ordinances that say the same thing, the entire idea behind this ordinance, it's supposed to reference the state code. If you want to add a little bit, fine. But for the most part, the state code regulates pretty much everything. So a lot of it was just, we talk about inspection of work, but we would have that section under plumbing, electrical, and construction. You know, why? We can do, so by combining it, and I did have DATCAP, or excuse me, DSPS at the state level review the ordinance, and they were satisfied it accomplished what it needed to accomplish. It didn't put our agent status in jeopardy in any way, shape, or form. The permit expiration is for 2 years for everything other than a state code requires that if the electrical work hasn't started, it expires within a year. But everything else can be 2 years.
Okay, so then that would just be the, what's current is the Q and the R, but that would be A and 1. So permit expiration is the 2 year, and then underneath permit expiration would be the electrical permit, which is number 1 underneath A or something there.
Yeah, there needs to be a deletion in there.
Okay. So I think that's one question I had. I had another question if I can ask another one. Under exemptions, 166.30. You're proposing to remove farm buildings. But then in the accessory building, we're also saying accessory building does not mean farm building. Can you elaborate on that? So in the definitions, we've got farm building. In the exemptions, we're removing farm buildings. And I'm just curious why we're removing farm buildings, I guess.
Well, farm buildings would be the same as you going out and building a 2-car garage on next to your house or 10 feet away from your house. The reason I still have to have some type of language in there is because at the beginning of the year, the state did change the law saying that we have to do electrical inspections in ag buildings.
Okay.
So I still have to reference it and it's still in there, but the code does not apply to any other component of how you build that ag building. But the state requires that we look at electrical in it. Now, if you build your 2-car garage, there is no requirement that we look at the electrical. And under the way this is written, we won't.
Okay.
We will be looking at the service because the electric company will not hook, power up the meter until it has our green sticker on it.
Okay, so the 316 is electrical, and that's why you're taking the farm buildings out of 166.3. And then under accessory building does not mean farm building because of the electrical, you're saying?
I'm still trying to find where you have that.
So under 166.31 definitions and word usage, A, accessory building, a detached building not used as a dwelling unit, but is incidental to that of the main building and which is located on the same lot. Accessory building does not mean farm building.
Correct.
And that's to do with the 316.
Right, because if I exempted accessory structures, then it would exempt that. If that sentence wasn't in there. And then the electrical code wouldn't apply, and then we wouldn't be in compliance with state law.
Okay. And then can you define in that same definition, the definition of main building?
Again, that's a state definition.
What is it? I couldn't find it.
House.
It's just
I mean, that's the purpose of the house, yeah.
So it's a house or a residence. Okay.
Most of these, almost everything in there is straight out of the UDC. For whatever reason, when they originally wrote it, they added in numerous definitions about walls and lintels and all that kind of stuff. And if you actually look in the ordinance, there is no place in there where it references any of those definitions. So that's why you see a lot of them deleted out.
So really it's the responsibility of whoever's building to go to the UDC and make sure that they're aware of all of this because it's gone as of approving the changes, correct?
The UDC is what regulates building.
Right.
The UDC does not apply to a detached garage. Nobody can hold you to that unless you put it in the ordinance saying the UDC specifically has a very narrow scope of what it applies to. The way our ordinance is currently written, it says if you're going to build one, we're going to reference the UDC and apply you to those standards.
Okay.
This removes that requirement. But
Okay.
as far as somebody having to go to the code and look it up to see how far your truck is supposed to be spaced, you can look at it, and if you want to say, well, I'm going to build it to residential standards as if it was attached to the house, fine, you can find that information, but it's not a requirement. For electrical, it is a requirement that a master electrician do the work, with a few exceptions. But again, we won't be verifying that, we won't be inspecting the work.
Okay. I had one other question, and it's regarding SPS 327 camping units on the front, number 6. When you go into 327 and you go under decks, hold on, detached decks. It's under 327.5, the exemption. The provisions of this code do not apply to detached decks, provided the deck does not serve an exit from the camping unit. All the decks that we've been discussing so far are right outside of the camper's exit. How does,
Sure. Chapter 327, 327 only applies to campgrounds.
I thought it was camping unit
In a licensed campground.
in a licensed campground. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Randy?
Yeah, Dustin, I just want to clarify that everybody understands this will still not exempt an accessory building. You still have to have a primary residence there, correct? You can't just go build a garage or a roof over a trailer without a primary residence.
Correct. Those conversations are in the future. As far as if we're changing anything like that, this ordinance, if you can build it under all those things you were talking about, this just determines whether it's going to be inspected or not.
Okay.
If you can build it, you're still going to get a zoning permit. We're going to make sure, and one of the things we're actually going to start doing, if the ordinance is adopted or the revisions are adopted. So if somebody sends in a permit for a garage, we're going to expect them to stake it out. As soon as that permit comes in, Rich is going to go out to the property and do a site visit before we even issue the permit. Looking at locations, are they planning on it being far enough from the road? Property lines, it's always the owner's responsibility to comply with the ordinance, but it's another set of eyes. We can see if there's issues, if there's violations out there. A lot of that stuff can be addressed. By not doing 3-4 inspections on a typical garage, that's going to free up the time for Rich to be able to go out and do, or myself, whoever, or Joe, go out and do those pre-issue inspections.
Okay. And then the only other thing I have, and it's kind of bugged me for a long time, is the electric company requires you guys to inspect the hookup before they'll hook up the electric service. Are all electric companies like that or just ours here?
Statewide.
Statewide.
Is my understanding. I know, I think we have like 4 or 5 that have service here. They all require it. Now we have talked to them and they give us a lot of latitude, I guess. I guess if we told them we don't care, they probably could.
Well, my question is, doesn't it leave the county open for a huge liability if something's hooked up wrong and you say it's fine and,
it's really no different than any other building permit inspection we do. If we go out and do an inspection on a footing and we miss something and the house later collapses or whatever the example is, we don't assume any liability.
Okay.
It's always the owner and the contractor. Actually, it's always the owner's responsibility to comply with the ordinances. We're doing our best effort to make sure that it's compliant. If something gets covered up, as far as liability goes, no, I guess is the short.
I would assume it's like inspections on a lot of things. We get inspected up in Minnesota all the time on amusement rides. Once that inspector leaves, if that amusement ride falls down, he's not responsible. It's the owner and the maintenance guys that are responsible.
And absolutely correct. About the only time there's any, I guess the one caveat I'd put in that is if the inspector is grossly negligent in their, maybe they took a bribe or something along those lines where they you know, they passed it knowing that it was illegal and you could prove that, you know, then yeah, there could probably be a liability issue. But you're right, because they don't know what happened. As soon as I turned my back and you took out all the nail cover or nail plates and somebody gets electrocuted, you know, well, how, I can't be there the whole time.
Dustin, along with Randy's question, I think, yeah, it was the Kwame rezone. I had asked you if it was okay for the sheds to be there prior to the residents, and you said in ag districts it is. So, Randy, you had mentioned a residence has to be in place first, but but the understanding is not in ag districts.
Correct. I came to the committee probably a year ago now, I guess. And originally it was enforced. You couldn't do it any place.
Everywhere, yeah.
But really, if you read the ordinance, it specifically says in residential districts.
Okay. And I just
so-
wanted to verify.
And again, this ordinance revision doesn't address that at all.
Nope. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we need a motion. Do we have a motion? I don't remember if we did it now. We need a motion to approve. Oh, now I gotta figure out the title of it. This one, building construction ordinance.
And this is just being able to take a public hearing, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it in the future?
Okay, so this would just be that we will approve that to take to public hearing. Okay, on that. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
Larry made a motion. We need a second. Chuck, second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. All right, the preliminary plat review for secluded land company.
You should have all received a copy of Lake Camelot Woods 2. Not to be confused with Lake Camelot Woods 1, which was on the agenda last month for preliminary plat review. This is the second half of it, I guess, for lack of a better term. Everything I'm seeing so far is that it's fine with our on our side. Both this one and the preliminary plat review that you did last month are going to the town of Rome on Tuesday, on the 12th. So if we do approve it, it would be on the same agenda as the final plat approval that we put off, that we said would probably end up being March. I don't know if it'll be ready quite yet in February, but we'll keep you updated. But we do need I guess a motion of some sort to approve the preliminary plat.
Okay, we need a motion to approve the preliminary review plat so it can go before Rome Town Board.
I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary plat.
Second,
I'll second.
Bruce second. We have a motion and a second to approve the preliminary plat review so it can go before the Rome Town Board. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Continued discussion on camping regulations.
I have no updates on that.
Okay. Continued discussion on updating a farmland preservation plan.
Could we step back to the camping regulation one?
Yes.
Easton had some questions. And I need to go back to them with some answers. And so one is on the back second page, it says associated structures. And one of the things that some people have come up with is that camper sizes can change over time. And during the time where a family is using a camper, it might be bigger than when a person or couple are using it later on in life, or even the opposite. You got a single person, they have a small camper. Moving forward, they maybe have a family, whatever. So I think the concern is that it would be problematic to regulate the size of a structure based off of the camper size, because that could grow or shrink depending on their time of life. Also, people replace campers. So how are we addressing that?
I guess my gut, I know we've talked about that a little bit over the last few months. My gut is to use a more hard number. I don't know what that number is, but 200 square feet or 400 square feet if we want, make sure we get plenty of ample room, independent of what the size of the camper is. I guess I'm not seeing a lot of campers out there that are small. If people are putting them out there, they're decent sized campers. But that eliminates that entire discussion. I mean, concern.
Okay.
A solid number.
A solid number. Okay. And that's yet to be determined. So I've got that. Sanitation. Does this include containment of gray water, or does the county allow for gray water to could just be put out on the land?
It's not a county issue. The state expressly prohibits gray water from being discharged onto the surface.
Out of anything, residences, campers.
Correct.
Okay, so
anybody who
that's
has anybody who has gray water coming out of their washing machine going into their backyard, that's a violation of state law and county law, I guess, or county ordinances. So this would include, if it comes through the plumbing in the in the camper, it would have to go into either the septic system or transfer container.
Okay. How are we determining permanent residents? That was a question that came up. And I didn't have an answer.
The easiest way to address that is if they have a different mailing address.
So someone's going to go out and check that on every single parcel when someone has campers?
Sure. Once it's made known to me that, or if I drive by or on our inspections or anything else, that there's a, those people are always there and whatever, they live there. That's what you start getting complaints on. And I look in the program and that's their mailing address. That's usually a good indication that's your permanent residence. But if their mailing address is Milwaukee, okay, well, probably not. Depending on where we go with the rest of the ordinance, and that's why I hope they don't get bogged down in the details. I'm really looking for just kind of general overview on all that, because it all comes down to how it ties together. The issue of being a permanent residence is completely off the table if they can't be there year round.
Sure.
Or if they're permitted, if we actually have to issue a permit, at that point, we'll know whether they have another residence, and this is, that would be part of the permitting process.
It's always the devil in the details.
It is, and sorry to interrupt. So for the purposes of what I sent out to the towns, I don't want, we'll never get anywhere if they try to do all the details. It's, here's where we'd like to see it. Yes, please regulate septic systems with them, or anything like that. Once I get those responses, then I can put something together that actually has detail, then send that out and say, hey, are we all happy? Because then they can all tie together and you can see that it doesn't matter how a permanent residence is defined, because they can't be there year round anyway.
Sure. So how it all plays out. With a permit, have we determined any costs? Have we determined who gets the revenue? That was another question. So if there's an annual permit, what would be the amount that's being considered and who receives that revenue? Is it a shared thing between the town and the county or what?
Well, I really was not in favor of the permitting process. If we did issue permits, it would be our office solely responsible for enforcement, issuing those permits. I guess the way most permits work is, I mean, it's just like a building permit or a zoning permit. And that's essentially what it would be, is a zoning permit. That revenue would stay in our office. I don't know if I want to go the route of a permit or not, but if that's the way everybody is satisfied, then, you know, fine, that's what we would do. But again, at no point in any of this does the town have the responsibility to enforce any of this. Or I guess I wouldn't want them to.
Okay. Thank you.
Randy?
Yeah, our town only had one question. What are your thoughts on handling the park models? How would you continue to handle those?
I don't know.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm not opposed to park models. They're not as easy to get in and out as a typical fifth wheel or whatever. And I think a lot of that comes down to what our requirements going to be. Can they leave them there year round?
Okay, so it's a work in progress.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
if we end up with, say, the date range, and somebody knows that, hey, I have to move this, I would hope that comes into play when they determine, or when they're deciding whether they want to build a park or buy a park model or a pole behind. Because, hey, I know I have to move this every December 1st.
My question would be related to that, is because I remember Phil put an ordinance through that required no park models except in a campground. Would we have to rescind that to do this?
It would be part of the larger revision.
Okay.
Because that's in the zoning ordinance, and it does specifically say that. And there is a section in the zoning ordinance that it's called camping regulations. So a lot of the conversations we're having really focus on that paragraph or that section. So if if the committee doesn't have a problem with park models and that's how we want to go, we just strike that line.
Okay, any other questions?
Would a park model have to require a license?
Yes.
Okay.
It's still manufactured as a recreational vehicle. It's just a certain type of recreational vehicle.
Would there ever be an instance where you'd have the number of unlicensed vehicles allowed on a parcel come into play where they pull a camper in, it's not licensed, it falls under the number that they're allowed, and none of this applies?
No, because the ordinance specifically says all campers have to be licensed at all times.
Okay.
Whereas if you look at the other ordinance language that talks about, say, like unlicensed vehicles, in the definition, it says you can have one unlicensed vehicle before you're considered a salvage yard. But the camping regulation specifically says it has to be licensed.
Okay, thank you.
Dusty, does that license determine, is that what controls so people can't come in and build their own park model?
Are you referring to like tiny homes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which are the same thing, really. I mean,
right. Essentially, yes. We've struggled I guess personally, I've struggled over the years with how to address tiny homes. For a long time, I heard they're the wave of the future, and how should they be allowed? Are there certain areas they should be allowed? And the magic number for campers to be considered a camping unit is under 400 square feet. Over 400, it's no longer a camper, and you have to meet the state building code if you're going to sleep in it. Under 400 square feet, a lot of it comes down to where they're manufactured, how they're manufactured, how they were inspected. If it's licensed or if it was built at a camping or a camper place, it's going to be licensed by the state of Wisconsin as a camper. The issue becomes with park models, or excuse me, tiny homes that I built myself. The argument you'll receive from people is that I called the DMV and I now have it licensed. Well, you don't. The actual trailer frame is licensed. The structure on top of it is not. Whereas if you look at a recreational vehicle or a camping unit that was manufactured in a manufacturing plant, the entire camping unit is licensed. But on a tiny home, they're right, you can get those licensed, but it's actually just the flat trailer part of it. So there is no real good answer to what you said or what you have. And I know a lot of counties have struggled with it over the years, and I think a lot of it comes down to personal or political or community preference. Are we okay with having tiny homes? And we can regulate them similar to park models and say they have to be in a licensed campground, which is a lot of what Chapter 327 talks about to some extent. So as of right now, I haven't really addressed tiny homes.
Okay.
I don't know if I will, unless somebody has a strong urge to go down that road. And I'd say I get, over the last 10 years, I probably get one request a year for them. So it's not a huge pressing issue.
Any other questions on camping regulations? All right, then we'll go on discussion of updating farmland preservation plan.
All right. Well, we started talking about this last month, and I have updated the mapping criteria, which is one of the things we talked about. And I actually managed to get the maps mostly updated. I'm going to share my screen again, maybe. Share screen. All right, so currently, here's a map of Adams County that anything in green is mapped as farmland preservation. Now, as we talked about before, if you're mapped as farmland preservation and you're in an exclusive ag district and you have the soil management plan or nutrient management plan, you are eligible for the tax credit. Whether you choose to take the tax credit or not, you are still subject to all regulations in an exclusive ag district. The big one being you can't build a house unless you're a farmer. So the original criteria that was in the farmland preservation plan that was adopted 3-ish years ago, maybe 4 now. Said everything that is ag land, everything that is woodland, everything that is open space, and everything that is zoned A1 is in farmland is mapped as farmland preservation. The result of that are where you see green on those maps. And I guess I'd point out like Richfield. They must have about 300 acres that's not mapped in. So, I mean, you have an entire town that is almost exclusively ag, mapped in farmland preservation. Preston, Adams, Strong's Prairie is not under county zoning, as you know, but they did we did map that, but they ended up opting out. Or they do their own town zoning, they don't have a compliant district. Anything in the pink and purple are areas that opted out. So you have Easton and Springville and Jackson, Lincoln. And at the bottom, you can see New Haven and Del Prairie. There's a good chunk of those areas is mapped in. So the new criteria that we talked about for who would be mapped in the Farmland Preservation District or in Farmland Preservation was primarily plan for land use, future land use of ag, or currently in ag production. This map is the result of that. I don't know if I'm talented enough. Oh, okay. So you can kind of see them side by side here. You can really notice a huge difference in the town of Adams. They went from. They're not? Oh, I know why. Let me try something here. How about now? Okay. Like I said, I almost knew what I was doing. So you can see the town of Adams. It's, I guess I would venture a guess to say 60, 70% of the town there. Under the new criteria, 5%, maybe 10%. So it really more strongly reflects the purpose of the program. The one thing I did add to the map on the right, that is where it was planned for future land use. I did spend a day almost going parcel by parcel throughout the entire county and adding to that map. We got our new aerial photos on Monday that were taken at the beginning of 2020. Super clear photos, crazy. So I actually went through and said, okay, well, now there's a farm field. I added it to that map. So it is a little bit more than what's on the right, but not much. So a lot of the rezones that we've seen over the last year, in fact, all but probably one, maybe two, would not have happened on the map on the right, if that's what were to be adopted. Or had that been in place, any of those rezones that had to do with farmland preservation would not have occurred because they would not have been under farmland preservation. I guess my question to the committee is this something I should continue pursuing? And my plan is for January and February, take this out to all the towns with their individual maps and see what they think. And at some point, if everybody's happy, move on to have a public hearing. And amend the farmland preservation plan.
So I guess I have a couple questions. On the new map that you have, are we still falling down to the town saying we don't want farmland preservation? Because this is an enterprise model, right? That you've got here, this map overall is an Adams County enterprise? No. Okay, so we're still going to be falling down to the townships whether they go in or they go out. And this is just giving them the knowledge of what parcels would be under if they went under farmland preservation.
Yes. I'm having an issue. Okay, I got an idea. Okay, so ag enterprise area is a completely not unrelated. It has nothing to do with any of this conversation. That is something that even if we, for example, the town of Lincoln, they're not under county zoning. Their town zoning does not have a compliant exclusive ag district. So as of today, their farmers are not eligible for this credit. If we all went through the process, and it's a big process to create an ag enterprise area, they would end up being able to qualify for $5 an acre instead of $7.50 that you can claim by being under exclusive ag zoning. If you happen to be in an area that is under an ag enterprise area and exclusive ag, then it goes up to $10 an acre. This nothing to do with that. If a town is already opted out of this, I'm not requiring them to. We're just changing the map. We're not changing the law. We're not changing the ordinance. We're not changing anything. Let's just map the correct properties. So if you've already opted out, you're out. If you want in, have at it. You're more than welcome to join.
So for an example, Easton, let's say Easton decides, yeah, we're in. Those green parcels now are under farmland preservation, which carry their own regulations of what they can and cannot do.
Correct.
So then those people better be at their town meetings.
Correct.
Okay.
It's a rezoning. That's why, I mean, we have to have the public hearings, and having public participation in something like this is huge. And that's why I plan on going to each town and making sure that they, very well aware of what's happening. In the towns where they already participate, I guess I would see virtually no issues, because you're actually removing about 80% of the people who have the restrictions. You're removing those restrictions, and almost none are getting the restrictions put on them. In the towns where they don't have farmland preservation, it would be the main, about the only difference is whether you can build a house on that property or not. But again, we're not looking at woods anymore. We're looking at farm fields. And I think it came up at last meeting about that there were a few other differences. If you actually read through the ordinance, there's not. They're just put in different places. It's who can build a house. It either can be the owner of the property or the owner of a farm.
And what's permitted versus what's conditional. So then you'd have to come in. I think there are some.
Non-metallic mines was one of them, I believe, or a kennel.
I think there's more than just that, but that's a moot point. We can refer back to that. So.
Yeah.
So this is because Town of Adams didn't know what they were getting into.
No, this is because when this was originally done, a lot of bad information was given out, and it was mapped way over extensively. So I'm trying to rein the program back in, and get it to be more what it's supposed to be. I did do some research, and I did figure out what happened in the Town of Adams. When farmland preservation came about, we had to revise the zoning ordinance. Instead of opting out of farmland preservation, they chose not to adopt the zoning ordinance. And the day I walked into the office, my predecessor said, here's the zoning ordinance that applies to the whole county. Here's the zoning ordinance that applies to Adams. That is not okay. When a zoning ordinance is amended, once the majority of the towns adopt it, it's adopted for all towns under county zoning. So that was an error over the years. By not adopting it, they thought they were opting out of farmland preservation. But just because they didn't approve it, the ordinance still was adopted. So I guess I don't know. I guess I wouldn't say it's because of one town. Overall, I mean, you guys have had 30 or so rezones in front of you, and it should have been 2. And each of those rezones costs that property owner $400.
Are there any other questions under this? Next month, we'll have this on the agenda again, Dusty? Or not?
Yeah, as an update, if the committee is okay with me going forward with going to the towns.
Okay. Do you want an emotion to go before towns? Or do you want to just do it?
I guess unless there's objections, I will just do it.
Okay. Our next thing is initial discussion of revision of planning and zoning permits, plain land and ordinance revisions.
This is, in case you guys haven't noticed yet, I'm working on kind of updating all of our ordinances. A lot of it is just making them easier to read, clarifying language, updating references. The P&Z or planning and zoning permits ordinance was adopted not that long ago. The primary, it's an entire ordinance, and the primary reason is to, if a contractor has a violation for whatever reason of the building code, it says that it puts a lot more responsibility on a contractor as opposed to the homeowner if it's a contractor taking out the permit. I don't have a problem with that. What I am doing though is I'm going to expand that ordinance to be considered and change the name to an administration ordinance. If you look at all of our different ordinances right now, my position is created 7 different times. The Board of Adjustment is referenced in, I believe, 5 different ordinances, and it even talks about makeup and what their duties are. And when you start comparing ordinances to ordinances, the Board of Adjustment has different authority. So by creating one overriding administration ordinance, it doesn't actually regulate anybody's land use or anything like that. It's more pulling out all the Board of Adjustment stuff, your guys' responsibility or what you guys do, criteria for rezones, my job duties, building inspector duties. All that goes into one ordinance that applies to all the other ordinances. What it does is eliminates a few pages of text out of a number of ordinances. The one thing I would like to ask as I'm writing that ordinance, currently the Board of Adjustment is a 5-member board, and we are supposed to have 2 alternate members. We don't have to have a 5-member board. We can have a 3-member board if we choose. The issue I'm running into is I have 3 members. I cannot find any more. I put it out to, I think, all the town clerks at one point. I've asked Chairman West, Casey, I think I've even mentioned it to you guys. I'm really struggling finding Board of Adjustment members. We did have an issue a couple months ago where one of our members forgot about the meeting. We did not have a quorum, and the people were delayed a month in their project. The requirements to be on the Board of Adjustment is you can't have more than 1 from any given town. And our ordinance doesn't allow town board or county board members to be on the board. The 2 from any given town is actually a state law requirement. The prohibiting town board members is an Adams County requirement. And I would strongly recommend getting rid of that requirement. It seems people who are on the town boards are the ones that are involved. And I think I'd have more success finding somebody if I open that up. I know one concern over the past after talking to one of our current board members or Board of Adjustment members, he was also the town chairman of New Haven for a number of years. he was always under the impression that if a variance request came before the town first and then went to the county or to the Board of Adjustment, he'd have to recuse himself. And that is not accurate unless you benefit or your family benefits from it directly. My advice has always been mention it that, yep, at the town, this is what they said. And basically all the same stuff they're telling us today. There. Now your decision was based on what happened at that meeting. So I don't see any downside to allowing town board members to be on. But I guess I need your guys' agreement with that if so inclined.
I would say that allowing town board members to be on would be good. But a lot of your town board members are county board members. So you're going to have to do both, I think.
Yeah, and there is no state requirement that you have to prohibit county board members. I prefer to shy away from it, but at this point, I don't want to say I'm desperate, but I'm getting there.
What about going down to a 3? What do we have to do to go down to a 3-member board?
I have to revise an ordinance.
Okay.
I mean, which is the ordinance we're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's not a problem. And what happened on the meeting that we had to cancel, we're considered a 5-member board. So a quorum is 3. Even though we only have 3 members and 2 showed up, that doesn't count as a quorum. You still have to have the 3. So essentially every month I have to have all 3 of my members show up. And like I said, we are supposed to have 2 alternates for that exact reason. One suggestion somebody made, actually one of the Board of Adjustment members made, is find a county staff member, somebody like say in the clerk's office or whatever, to serve as an alternate. Whereas if all of a sudden somebody doesn't show up, in theory, a county clerk or a staff member would be around to do that. It would be a specific staff member, not just anybody.
Who's on the Board of Adjustment?
I knew you were going to ask that. Bob Benkowski from the town of Rome. Bob Kraus. Bob Beaver is no longer on the board. No, he 6 months ago maybe. Bob Kraus from the town of New Haven, and Richard Matsky from Preston. He's our newest member. I think we appointed him sometime last winter or spring, something like that.
And did you say it could be 1 person per town or 2?
1. And so the other part of what I'm running into is that both Bobs every month strongly point out to me that they're getting older and want to get off the board. So if I'm not careful, I'm going to be down to 1.
I definitely think we should go to at least allow town board members to be on there. Because as you stated, Dusty, those are the people that are interested. They have a pulse on the community, what their feelings are.
Anybody's thoughts on going to 3?
I don't like the idea of 3, because then you get possibility of 2 people making a decision. I'd rather open up the town board and county and try to keep a fuller roster.
To comply with state law, and that's fine. To comply with state law, I am supposed to have a board of 7 then. You have to have 5 plus the 2 alternates. But I definitely get what you're saying.
How about if we try it with the town board and see what we can come up with. I've got ideas of people with a town board, that might, because they are interested.
Yeah, certainly. Let's go that route to start. If it Doesn't work? We can.
If it doesn't work, then we could bring in the county board members if you needed to.
I have no problem with that. Oh, sorry.
I think we need a motion to have you draft the ordinance, or do we not? No? Okay.
No, we wouldn't need a motion. So I guess expect to see that probably in the next couple of months. I kind of want to get that one worked out just to fix the Board of Adjustment situation. I mean, there's other stuff in there, but that's the driving force on that one.
I really think you need to get that taken care of.
So the other ordinance was the floodplain ordinance. The only change I need to make there, as you're all are aware, we're a community, or we're under the CRS program where residents that have flood insurance do get a discount because our regulations are higher than necessary. In order to stay in the CRS program, we have to adopt, we have to change one sentence in our ordinance that will require what's called 2 foot of freeboard on more structures than it already does. I haven't written the language yet. You'll see it, and I'll go into a lot more detail about that. I guess I'm just giving you a heads up that you're probably going to see that next month. I need to get that kind of taken care of before our recertification. It's not, over the last year and a half, almost 2 years since I've been here, I've only actually issued 1 permit in the floodplain. They met the ordinance requirements and everything. So this change isn't going to really affect anybody. I mean, it could, but in all probability, it's not going to. So when I write the ordinance, I'll get more of the details to you on what exactly that'll read or entail. Which part?
The 2 foot of extra
Freeboard.
freeboard. Thank you.
Essentially what that means is the bottom has to be 2 foot above the floodplain elevation. Currently on accessory structures, it has to be 1 foot. Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, we'll go down to Jerry's surveyors.
There we go. Had a little trouble unmuting there. Surveys that have been submitted and reviewed are staying fairly steady, which is a little unusual for this time of year. Been doing some work with the treasurer's office as well. We've come across several deeds, or they've come across several deeds that there's problems with, issues with. Just received not too long ago, almost 2 townships worth of section corner material from our contractor that's doing those. So that program's well underway. We should be, hopefully we'll be done, pretty close to being completely done with that by summer, I would say, roughly. I will be going to continuing education classes in the end of this month for 3 days. So that's one Wednesday. I won't be in the office here, but I will be checking emails and voicemails, that sort of thing, daily as usual. So that's all I have, unless there's any questions.
Any questions for Jerry? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, we got Jody Campion. We got a written report from her. So we'll go on to the financial.
All right, so financial report, this is through the end of November. And as you can see, as I've been saying the entire time, we're doing extremely well, or we did extremely well last year. In December, continued that trend. Based on the revenue and expenses through the end of November, we had only, our office only requires 17,000 in taxpayer or off the levy. For the year, we were budgeted to be about 190,000 off the levy or from the levy. So it's a testament to how busy of a year it was. And I have no idea where 2021 is going to go. If anybody can tell me with some degree of certainty, I'll, be more than willing to listen. Sounds like there's a supply shortage in lumber to some extent. So almost sounds like it's going to continue at least for the foreseeable future. And we're still issuing permits daily-ish, every other day, whatever. So it hasn't completely stopped, that's for sure. And we are in the middle of winter. And that's the financial report.
I know the permit. I was just astonished when this was only November. We still have another month to go there.
Yep. I think, do you remember what December's numbers were? Like 20, it was right close to another 30,000 in revenue, I believe. So.
Okay, thank you. Planning and zoning department updates.
Oh, permit report first.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I marked it off here. That's fine.
So it goes right along with the financial report. 83 permits this year, November of 2020, compared to 53 in 19. We're at the end of November, we're 3 short of 1,500 various permits that we issued. And you can kind of see one question that actually as Jody was looking through it, and I realized I probably never made it super clear to everybody. If you look at the bottom of the revenue numbers, on the 2 columns, one's for 19 and one's for 20. Excuse me. There's a line for building zoning, and it has a dollar amount, hydrograph dollar amount, sanitary, and then subtotal. On the right side, sanitary is not there. And that's because in 19, the old way the budget was done or was set up, everything was lumped together. So when I had the first opportunity or first budget that I was part of writing, the first thing I did was had them create a new account and separate the 3: building, zoning, sanitary, just for better idea where we're at, in any given year. Is it septic systems that are killing our budget, or is it something else? So that's why if you look at the 2 columns, you're not going to see the same names. That's all I got on permits.
Okay, we'll go on to planning and zoning department updates.
All right. On this coming Tuesday, don't call. Our office will be closed. We are going to be here, but we're doing an in-staff training, very detailed. I know it's going to be at least the morning. If it probably will extend into the afternoon. I haven't told the staff that yet. And just with the changes that were made, by approval today, and kind of what's now that Rich is on board, he's been studying a lot with passing some building inspector. He got his construction inspection license. He's working on his electrical. I haven't worked with him a lot on zoning matters yet. So that's why I'm taking this opportunity. He started in February, immediately jumped into the construction part of it. And it's just been that kind of year. We haven't had a chance to do a lot of training. So we are going to close. It's a good time of the year to do that. So we won't be answering the phone and the door will be locked, but that should be, hopefully they get something out of it. The only other 3 things I want to discuss, there are 3 court cases, same ones we've been talking about. We're nearing resolution. With the kennel, our attorney and their attorney are kind of talking about they're discussing closing down procedures, so we don't have to deal with finding homes for 70 some dogs. I am confident the direction that one's going. The one north of town for the salvage yard, we went through initial discovery. Their attorney or his attorney asked for some information, and we will be sooner rather than later requesting it, or we will have a trial date set, it sounds like, and we'll have to go that route. And then the other one over in Barb's neck of the woods, she had 60 days at, yes. She had until January 2nd to clean up the property under court order. That did not happen. I drove out there yesterday, so we will be working with the attorney. I mean, I got to work with the attorney, find out exactly our next step, if we have to go back to court or can we go in and take care of it? When I drove by there is a pile of about 1,100 tires and 6, 7 demo cars. I do have to give them a little credit. They did get rid of some of it. But it's far from okay. And as I've been saying, it is in the middle of a subdivision. So those are, along with, I don't know, 200 other violations we're working on. Those are the big ones.
Any
And
questions?
Oh, yeah, that's all I got.
Any questions for Dustin? Okay. Thank you. Correspondence? Nothing?
Nothing.
Okay, next meeting date, February,
1st?
no, 3rd.
3rd.
Is 3 o'clock still okay? Because you won't be building too much yet. Okay, 3 o'clock, February 3rd. And we are adjourned. Yes, don't forget to sign.